printing and viewing proofs. Pretty simple, but there can be a couple of wrinkles. So we always want to print at actual size, if we can, if the label's small enough, so that we can cut it out if we want and put it on a bottle and make sure it looks good on that bottle and it actually fits. We send proofs in PDF and at actual size. However, whatever program you open that in, by default, typically wants to shrink down the proof to fit on the paper that you're printing it on, probably 8.5 by 11. So we want to always make sure we're printing at actual size. And that's done on your end, unfortunately, in the print dialog box. Again, by default, it's probably going to shrink. The terminology it's going to use is going to depend on what PDF viewer you're in. This is Adobe Acrobat Reader. It'll be the same in Adobe Acrobat, but it'd be different in a different PDF viewer. So here it says actual size, but it might say 100%, do not scale. It might say scale to 100%, which is a little bit confusing, but some variation on actual size printed out. You can also then verify you've printed it on actual size if you'd like. We put a little ruler on our proofs of 3.5 inches long, and you can set an actual ruler up against our ruler and make sure that it has in fact printed at actual size. Another little wrinkle with viewing proofs, a little bit more technical, is Overprint Preview. Overprint Preview is Acrobat's way, Adobe Reader's way, of giving you the best representation of how a document's going to look when printed. When you turn on Overprint Preview, you're essentially telling Acrobat, hey, this isn't just for web viewing, this isn't just for on-screen viewing, we're actually going to print this on a press and give us your best view of the color as you see how this is going to land on press. And that is, again, not set by default in preferences. So it's on you, unfortunately, to set your preferences this way. In Adobe Reader or Acrobat, it's going to be on the Preferences or Settings menu, and it's going to be on this Page Display pane of that Settings Preferences menu. Here we have Use Overprint Preview only for PDFX files. That's the default, and that means that Overprint Preview is not going to be active. As you see here, when we're looking at our proof, we're seeing a light gray against a yellow, and we're seeing Syrah 2023. So if I turn Overprint Preview on, we're going to see how it's actually going to print this proof on a press. Not how it's going to print it necessarily on an inkjet printer, which doesn't understand overprint, and therefore it's not going to give you a correct view. This is telling it it's going to be printed on a professional press. Now what happens, the gray has been set to overprint on our document, so in Overprint Preview, it shows correctly darker, how you would probably be expecting to see it. But there's a mistake in this document. There's a mistake on this proof that needs to be called out to back to us. Here, the designer or someone set very light color to overprint. The vintage has disappeared. In the document, this happens to be set as a very slight amount of yellow, and then it was set to overprint. Well, light yellow overprinting on mustard is never going to be visible. Here it appears just fine. So you might sign off on this document thinking you're going to get Syrah 2023, but if overprint does not get removed by us in the graphic design file when you sign off, after you sign off on this proof, it's not going to show. This Overprint Preview gives you the actual correct view of what's going to happen on press. So if you're viewing PDFs for press printing, always be viewing in Overprint Preview. Thanks so much.